up, Inner Circle? Hey, Claire, what's going on? Hey, see you, Sophie. Alexis, always good to see you. Rachel and Dawn, Yvonne, Diana. Pascal, what's up? Good to see you. Michael and Connie and Jeff Peterson. Always make me want to go fishing, Jeff. That's all I think about when I see your background. Hey, Connie. Tanya, what's going on today? Good to see you guys. All right. Well, welcome to this month's Inner Circle. So good to have you guys live. I see the chat lighten up here. And I know so many of you will watch the replay if you're at work or busy right now. Hope you're all getting to see it. Today, I'm so excited. This is a big week. Lots of cool things happening this week. Can't wait to share with you. Today, before we get started, I want to ask a question. Who in here has ever made a mistake, right? I guess the deeper question is, who's ever made a mistake once, but you relive it over and over and it haunts you for too long? Have we ever done that? Maybe that's just me. Today, it's been a lot. There's just been a lot of things in my face over the last 30 days of people failing and feeling that's the end, when in so many cases the failure is just the beginning, right? Winston Churchill said the definition of success, Shelley, I see you, the definition of success is going from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm, right? You've heard me say a lot, hopefully, if you remember, I always say you want bigger results, bigger success, then you have to solve bigger problems. Right? So we have to take those failures, the things that go wrong, we have to reframe them, but not just reframe them where you go, oh, I'm glad I made that mistake, but how do you turn them into rocket fuel? And that's what I want to share today. I think this is going to be a great training today, but I want to tell you on a personal note, I always share with you guys what's going on in my life. Monday, who signed up for Matthew McConaughey Monday? Raise your hand if you're signed up. If you're not, make sure when you're done today, go to livin, Livin, 2023.com. Monday, we go live. Me, Matthew McConaughey, Tony Robbins, Trent Shelton, Marie Forleo, right here live. It's going to be off the charts. I was on with McConaughey last night. He likes being called McConaughey, not Matthew, for 2 hours going over the event. You can't believe how hard this guy has worked to be in our industry. Right? In the self-education industry, he's dying to serve. He doesn't need to do this. He wants to do this. And I think it's going to be one of the most epic things I've ever done. You want to hear the cool part? We have 1.7 million people registered right now for this event. By Monday, I think we will register 2.4 million people for the event. It's off the charts. It's going to be amazing. In fact, I have nervous, excited energy all at once, right? I got to open it. I'm going to be sitting next to McConaughey and sharing. But this is what I do. This is what I love. And it just shows what's possible when you dream. Who the hell would have ever thought this would be possible in my life? I am no different than any of you. I was once sitting exactly where you're sitting. And it's just persisting until I succeeded, to overcome failures, to take the failures and mistakes in my life and turn them into fuel. Was it easy? Hell no. Nobody likes to fail or be let down or somebody screw them over. Nobody likes that. But it's those that get back up and keep going and use it as fuel, not an anchor, that end up in great places. And I feel beyond blessed. And I hope all of you attend. And let's light it up, because I want to share something with you. We're going to have a lot of Tony and Dean family members there, for sure. Hundreds of thousands of our family members. But there's like 1 million plus people that are going to be here that have never been a part of our industry. They saw McConaughey in a romantic rom-com 20 years ago, and they fell in love with him, and they're just showing up. They're like, what the hell is this? So what I would love, can we really rock this audience and show them what it's like to be a part of something bigger, to think differently, to be connected? So when you guys are on, just light it up. And I'll be looking for you guys on the screen and looking for support. All right? Lucia, Ed Milet did an interview. I set that up. Ed's a dear friend of mine. So that went great. So that's number one. Number two, have any of you seen my last 2 podcasts? This sounds like it's self-serving, but I finally launched a podcast where I'm doing interviews. We're calling it Own Your Future Podcast. We launched it 2 Mondays ago. With Matthew McConaughey was the first one, and we became the number 2 podcast in the world in our category, which is so cool. Thank you for the support. Thank you for those that raised your hand. We launched one 2 days ago with Trent Shelton, And we're still, today, this morning, we're number 4 in the world in our category. So my competitive side, I'm like, damn, we slipped to number 4. I want to be number 1. If you haven't seen that interview, each week they're going to be amazing. It's at, if you want to write this down, ownyourfuturepodcast.com, ownyourfuturepodcast.com. Go check it out if you have time. The one with Trent, the one with Matthew's amazing. The one with Trent's one of my favorite interviews of all time. If you know Trent Shelton, he's such a good dude. And I'm doing these because I've been asked, the number one thing I've been asked for years is to do a podcast this style, and I've not wanted to put it in my life. I kind of got a lot going on with 4 kids, multiple companies, running Tony's, all this stuff, but I decided to go all in, and I promise you to bring some amazing guests. Wait till you see the lineup of people we got coming, from Jay Shetty and Trent to so many amazing women, so many amazing men in business, in our world. So I'm really excited about that. So that was a lot about me. Sorry. This is about you. This is the inner circle. Thank you for being here. If this is your first month joining us, this is what we do every single month. This has been a family of mine for almost a decade. So if I act really casual, it's because I feel like it's family. I'm seeing faces that I've seen for years. And I want to bring to you every single month the things that I face, or the things that have moved the needle in my life. And that's what this is all about. It's really focused on mindset, marketing, and momentum. And I always pick one of those 3 to share with you. And I try to make it interactive today. I'd love to make this interactive to get some work done. But I want to start with mistakes, things that are going wrong, and how to turn those experiences into a positive. And let's just face it. If you're not screwing up, if you're not making mistakes, you're probably not pushing yourself, right? Did you ever see Sarah Blakely? Anybody ever see any of Sarah Blakely's stuff? She created Spanx, right? One of the youngest self-made billionaire women in history, which is so cool. And if you hear her story, schlepping from store to store, trying to convince people to use her product, it's such a great story. I mean, she got turned down every single time. And then finally one day she just grabbed a woman from, I think it was Macy's, and went in the bathroom went in, put her Spanx on, came back out and said, look at me, tell me I don't look better. And finally, after so many tries, she got into one store, then multiple stores, and she ended up exiting that business. And again, one of the youngest self-made billionaire women in history. But if you ever hear her story, you know what her father used to ask her on a regular basis and why she wasn't afraid to fail? If anybody knows the story, her father used to say almost every day, as how she tells it, is, what did you fail at today? And when she'd say nothing, he'd say, I'm disappointed. You didn't push yourself today, Sarah. Failing is the way to success. And she just got a new framework, because the guy that was interviewing her when I watched her, I was actually backstage and then I got a chance to talk to her. The interviewer said, well, what do you mean fail? She's like, when you grew up with a dad like that, I thought failing was the good thing. So yes, I tried this business and it failed, and I tried that business and it failed. And then I went to a million different stores and they kept saying no. It was just, okay, you said no, I failed. My dad's proud of me today. Imagine having that gift, that framework, that when, you try to get the date, get the business, get the sale, get the company to go, get the ad to work, it doesn't work. You're like, all right, good day. I failed today. I know that sounds extreme, but imagine if we could adapt that framework in our lives. Because so many times we're afraid to fail before we even start, because we might look silly in front of other people. The older we get, the more in tune we get, the more in this rhythm we get. It's hard to step off the path. And if we think of stepping off the path as failure and it could hurt, we don't. And today I hopefully want to break that. I got 2 stories I want to share to kind of set the frame here. My team grabbed one story that they really like, and I'll tell that one. But I saw this today, and I thought, I don't think I've ever shared this before, and if you've heard it, I'm sorry, but I think it's really important. I started in this business, in the self-education business, with a course called Motor Millions to teach people how to make money with cars. It was a way that I made money when I was a kid. Most of you have heard that. This is in the 90s. This is before the internet, before any of that. I did an infomercial and showing people how to flip cars using the classified ads. It was a really cool thing. Well, back then, as I shared, it was a lot of investment. There was no internet. There wasn't the ability for us to go on Zoom. I had to build a physical product, put it in a warehouse, get a phone center to pick up the telephone and take the order, and then go to the fulfillment house and ship it. And it was hundreds of thousands of dollars just to see if it would win. And it was some of the most stressful times in my life. I felt I was going bankrupt on a regular basis trying to fund this machine while I was learning. I wasn't smart enough to be in a group like this or learn from someone else. I was trying to figure it out. And if I look back now, it was all part of the journey, and I'm glad. But it was just gut-wrenching because I was flipping real estate and flipping cars to fund this business. And every time I'd get momentum and I'd lose it, like, I got to go flip a house. I got to get working cars. So at night I'm painting fenders and selling cars, and during the day I'm trying to be the guy on TV selling an information product. It was fun times. I wouldn't change any of it, but definitely. Long story short, I finally got some momentum. And the company got to about 5 million a year, which is unbelievable. It took a few years to get there. Ups and downs, almost lost it all. I get to about 5 million, and like I've shared with you guys, once you learn, once you pick a dot, pick a niche, pick a path, and go deep on it, you learn it, you realize that it transcends and can go to something else. So many of you, when you're dialing in your dot, you're like, I want to teach people to go vegan, but I've also been an accountant for 40 years and I can teach people how to be better accountants. Which one do? I say, do one, go deep, and then it can evolve into something else, right? Well, I was dying to teach real estate. If you want to know the truth, I started with Motor Millions, but like my personal life, I started with cars, and I took that and I found a way to invest in real estate. And I had been getting really strong momentum with real estate, and I wanted to switch my dot. That's it. I wanted to go to real estate. But I built this company that was doing like 5 million a year. Do I just shut it down? Didn't know what to do. And I was young. I was in my 30s and a little naive, and I found someone that wanted to buy Motor Millions. And I was like, hell yes. And these are some of the things I'm going to tell you I learned. Because this is, I really thought about what was one of the mistakes that caused me the most stress. And that, it wouldn't cost me that much stress now. But this was probably at the time of my life the most stress I had ever experienced from a mistake. Found a guy, and you know when my wife is the best at it. Who in here knows when you meet somebody, there's something just off, but you have such a desire that you ignore all the signs. Women, have you ever done that dating? Like, man, he's just handsome, he's doing well, everything. It's a little weird that he said his mom's a bitch, but maybe there's something I don't know, right? Like, the signs were there, the red lights were flashing, but you wanted the prize so bad that you ignored it. Am I the only one that's done that? Raise your hand if you've ever done that, right? Okay. So the signs were there. Alicia, I see you laughing, right? The signs were there, but he offered me $3 million for the business. And I'm like, I could sell my first business for $3 million. And I could go take everything I learned and I could teach people real estate where my heart is really at. So I basically, and then I should have known. He's like, I'm not going to do the $3 million up front. You'll have to pay too much tax on it. He's like, I'll pay you quarterly. So he gave a first payment of like $100,000, and he was going to pay me quarterly. And the truth is, I was young and dumb, and I went, here's the keys. I'm out. I'm going to go focus on real estate. And I just went and started taking everything I learned, everything I taught you, dialing in my dot. What's my course going to look like? I called it Think a Little Different, because that's how I started investing in real estate. And I'm so excited on this, and I'm ignoring. And the first quarter, my payment doesn't come in. And I call, and he's like, oh, yeah, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. Another month goes by, no payment. Another month goes by, no payment. Here's what happened. When he was, I'm going to just share this with you because I really want you to hear this. When he was looking at my company, he told me, he goes, you run it like a mom and pop little store. I'm going to take Motor Millions and make it a corporate business, and I'm going to scale it. And he blew it up. He took away the personal touch, tried to make it too corporate. And without me there, without him telling me, sales were going down really fast. They were laying people off. There wasn't a lot of employees. They were laying people off. But here's the worst thing. I want to tell you where my biggest stress in my life ever came from. You know how he funded the growth? He stopped paying refunds for 5 months. So refunds are low. In average, it's 12% across the There's 12%. You send 100 people to your favorite restaurant, 12 are going to say it wasn't so great. Isn't that true? That's just 8 to 12% of people, just refund. He decided not to pay the refunds and not tell me. So imagine this. I'm off working on Think a Little Different. I'm so excited. I'm ignoring the thing that was kind of a pain. I'm going to tell you some of the life lessons I learned here in a moment. And all of a sudden, we're 6 months in, he doesn't pay his payment. We send a letter from my attorney. I try calling him. He's not returning my call. And I find out that there's $1.8 million in refunds he didn't pay. And he took that money out of the company. And I didn't know what to do. I'm in my early 30s. I'm stressed out of my mind. There's people want their money back. There's people going online going, that Dean Graziosi doesn't pay. Like, my heart is dying. I'm like, I don't own the company anymore. I could show him proof. But it didn't matter. My face was on it. So now I go to my attorney, who I didn't have like an attorney. I hired an attorney. And an attorney says to me, you got to file bankruptcy on that if you don't want to pay it. It's not your fault. You didn't do it. You don't need to pay that. And he doesn't want to give the company back. So I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks thinking of, man, there's people who gave money thinking my face is on it, and now they're not going to get their money back. They're not going to say, screw this guy who bought it. They're going to go, Dean Graziosi took my money, and he didn't pay me back when I didn't like it, and the product wasn't as good as I heard it was in the past. And I remember there was a point in my house. Has anybody ever been to? I was so old. It was like the big cordless phone in your house. Remember the cordless phone with the big antenna that you would pull out? You remember those big old phones? Not a cell phone, but a home phone, right? I remember one day, my attorney calls and told me it's 1.8 million and more money is coming in. At that time, 1.8 million might as well have been 1.8 billion dollars to me. And I remember I took that phone and I threw it against the wall. It shattered. It put a hole in the wall. So now I still had $1.8 million and a hole in my wall and a broken phone. So it wasn't my smartest move, for sure. But I didn't sleep for a week. This is the stuff that nobody tells you in this journey of now I'm going, Matthew McConaughey, 2.4 million people. But it didn't tell you the day I smashed my phone and said, I'm a jerk. I shouldn't have done this. I overstepped my boundaries. This is what happens when you're not that smart. I didn't go to college. I don't understand business. Why do I trust people? I'm too not. All of the shit, all of those limiting beliefs, you know, the ones that we all have hidden in there, they came flooding out. I felt like such a loser. I remember calling my mom wanting to cry, but I didn't want to seem pathetic. And I didn't want to call my dad because he told me I was stepping too fast and I shouldn't have gone after my dreams. I felt so alone, right? Do you want to tell your friends, I knew he wasn't going to make it, right? Oh, you did overstep your bounds. Oh, you thought you were going to sell big shot. So I was living alone in this torment. And I don't mean to belabor this story, but I really want you to hear this so we can work together to come out on the other side, because I get to show you the other side. I get to be here with you right now on the other side. I was a millimeter away from saying, screw this. I'm just going to file bankruptcy and be done. I'll go back to fixing cars and flipping houses. And that lasted for, I don't know, a day, 5, 7, 2 weeks. I lingered, I loathed, I rolled around in self-pity and poor me and why would someone do this to me and all that shit. And I probably could have quit and everybody else would have said, I'd quit too if someone stole your business. And then one day I woke up and I said, I can't screw people over. It didn't start, I didn't wake up with an epiphany and go, I am going to fix all of this and be perfect and someday have an event with 2.5 million people. No, I just woke up one day and said, the most important thing to me is I can't screw people over. They got to get their money back. So that was the first learning lesson. Something I think you should write down is paying your success tax. I didn't know that term, but that's what I was paying. You don't get to the gold. You don't get to the end result unless you go through this shit. It's like there's an auditor going, I threw a whammy at Dean. Let's see if he'll focus and get through this or give up and go back to who he used to be. I felt like I was being challenged, but I went in one step at a time. The first one was I can't screw people over. So I told my attorney, I can't not pay people back. He's like, do you have the 1.8? I didn't have $1 million back then. I said, I don't, but I'll figure it out. I said, I need to take the company back. He's like, you're going to take here's what my attorney said to me. It's you sold somebody a racehorse, they broke its leg, and now you want to go to court to get the horse with the broken leg back? I'm like, what else am I going to do? So I hired my attorney to go and fight to take the company back. We go to court. This guy doesn't show up. It took me through the whole court process. The day at court, he doesn't show up. The judge awards me my company back. In debt, broken, and half the people left because they didn't like it because I wasn't there. Talk about just young and dumb. So now, What are the lessons I learned? Now I got a company back. I don't know how to get it started. And all the money that I had, I invested it into building Think a Little Different, my new real estate launch. Talk about feeling like you're just a jackass. And honestly, I wanted to quit 1,000 times. 1,000 times I wanted to quit. But this is where the muscle starts to the muscle starts to build. So the first thing I did was, I said, I don't have the money to pay everybody back. I hired one person. I remember her name was Mary, and she was so sweet. And I said, I want to call 100% of this people. And I didn't know, I was so naive. The only thing I knew to do was the truth. You want to hear, I could get emotional right now. I had Mary call every single person that was owed a refund, and she told them what happened. And you know what people said? I'm so sorry that's happening, Nadine. Yes, I'll accept a payment plan. 87% of the people said, I'm sorry, I could cry right now. And we were able to put 87% of people on a payment plan to give their money back. About 13% of the people were like, screw that, he made a dumb decision, I want my freaking money back. I had enough money to pay the 13% of the people up front. I haven't told this story so long, I'm getting emotional. 13% of the people were mad. I get it. I had enough money to pay them. 87% said, hell yes. Some of them even said, if Dean's coming back, I don't want a refund. And all of a sudden, I learned something about humanity. I learned that honesty is so important. I learned that if I take care of the customer, they'll take care of me. And that still sticks to this day. Thank God this guy Wendell ripped me off. I never would have discovered it at that depth. I saw people who were owed money for 6 or 8 months say, oh shit, that sucks. How can I help? So I got restored faith in what we do, and I realized how important the client is. So I created payment plans. I also realized that I like trusting people, but trust and verify. Can you please put that down? Trust and verify. I also learned I moved too quick. What's another lesson I teach you guys all the time? Even if you're dying to go into your new business, treat the thing you're in, the career you're in, like you love it more than life. If I wouldn't have just ignored Motor Millions to go to my new thing, if I would have stayed involved, if I would have done weekly calls, if I would have went back to the office, I would have known this shit was happening way in advance. It wouldn't have been 6 months later with my head in the sand because I wanted my new thing. Some of you want to go to the new thing. You can't ignore the old thing. In fact, stop hating the old thing because the old thing is what got you there. Motor Millions got me out of Egypt. I should celebrate it. Why was I condemning it? I couldn't go to the promised land if I didn't learn that. So I found a way. In that moment, the gift was I found a way to love what I was in, even if I knew it wasn't the thing I was going to do forever. Because when you ignore it, when you hate it, it can only compound to negativity. It can only compound what it did for me, and it was painful. Some of the most painful times of my life. I learned on another level to be a solution-oriented thinker. And you should write that down. I learned to be a solution-oriented thinker on another level. I'll tell you why. I was young. My attorney was in his 50s. I swear, no, not embellishing this. My attorney told me I was a fool. Because you filed Chapter 13 on that company, you're done. You didn't do anything wrong. And there would have been $1.8 million worth of people, which was thousands of people, that been like, Dean Graziosi's a jackass. Stole my money. If I listened to a guy that was older than me, who I thought was smarter than me, who went to a college better than me because I didn't go to college, if I would have listened to him, I would have got maybe the results he had. Later in life, I ended up seeing him, and he said he hated being an attorney, but he still gave me that advice. I also learned at that time that I have to follow my intuition. I have to follow my core values. I have to follow what I believe because someone else's beliefs are not mine. If I followed his, I would have filed bankruptcy and I probably wouldn't be here with you today. So, I share that and those lessons. If you had to put a price on it, how valuable do you think that lesson was for my life? The most pain I'd ever experienced up to that time. I was broke. I thought there was going to be people all over the internet talking crap about me because I didn't pay them. I lost my company. I thought I was going to have to tell my family I was a failure. I was living in Arizona. I thought I had to move back to my little town in upstate New York and start working on fenders again. It was the worst experience up to that time. And I look back now today when I go to share, and it was one of the greatest lessons of my life. And it set the foundation of how I'm here with you today, how I built a great relationship with Tony Robbins and Matthew McConaughey, and how we're going to do the biggest event in the internet history. Monday will be the biggest online event in internet history. How freaking insane is that? But Wendell, a guy that ripped me off, could have stopped all of it if I allowed it. I also realized that there's no one coming to save us. When I say these things, they're not just shit I pulled out of the air. They come through my life experiences. No one was coming to save me. Not my attorney, not my friends. Didn't have anybody with $1.8 million to lend me and say, hey, here you go. I had to figure it out. I'd be a solution-oriented thinker. It also taught me this. What's another lesson I try to teach you guys all the time? If you had the difference between having lots of resources or being massively resourceful, which one would you take? If you had to leave your kids with resources, $1 million cash, $1 million in the bank, or leaving your kids incredibly resourceful, which one would you give your children? Right? Resourceful. Of course. How many people hit lotto and go broke? Resources, not resourceful. Did I learn that lesson? I thought, my attorney said, well, I remember him looking at me. I was shaking. Listen, I have to be honest with you. I remember being in his office and my hands were trembling, literally shaking, sick to my stomach, couldn't eat lunch. And he looked at me and he said, you're not going to file bankruptcy? Do you have $1.8 million to pay these really angry people back? Feel that. I want you to feel that for a second because that's what he said to me. Do you have $1.8 million to pay these angry people back? In that moment, I was like, no, I freaking don't. I don't have 200 grand to pay these people back right now. I just put it all in my new thing. Would think a little different. I didn't have resources. What did I learn? I could be resourceful. Just be honest. Hired one employee. She called every single one of them. That's resourcefulness at its best. So how many of us are giving up an inch away from the goal, the finish line, or the touchdown, or whatever analogy you want to use? How many are giving up because like, well, it would have worked, but this person ripped me off. This didn't happen. What if it was all by design? What if that is the success tax that you actually have to pay to get to the other side where you want to be? What if there's a success tax auditor that says, I love Jezebel, I love Alyssa, I love Marie and Beatrice and Marie and Alicia, but they need to go through this so they're worthy to get that. And you don't know which one it is. We have to persist until we succeed, right? And sometimes it is shitty and it is crappy and you're shaky and you got a knot in your stomach. And that's exactly the thing that you need to get through because you 2.0 lives on the other side of that. I don't know when it is. I still don't like failures. I still don't like mistakes. I still don't like when I'm let down and things go wrong. I am not immune. Please know that. But I have trained my brain to say, this sucks. But what lesson am I learning? This sucks, but I know I'm going to be a better version of myself after this. So here's what I'd like to do. The team created a workbook. Did you guys, or a worksheet? Did you guys get this? You guys have access to this? I hope you do. Some of you might not. You might be on your phone and checking it out. So I'm just going to walk you through this. I would love to do a little work. You guys up for a little work right now while we're in this state? Okay. In this, you'll see, I was going to tell a story that I shared in Underdog Advantage about, I went to California, I went to Hollywood, I almost did a deal with Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson back in the 90s, and at the last minute I screwed it up, made a mistake, the deal fell through, it was another big disappointment, it was another great learning lesson. But when I really thought about it this morning, so that's why you'll see on the sheet it says that story. But when I thought about it this morning, I was like, what story have I not told that probably, just so you know, a decade ago I would have been too embarrassed to tell you that story. And this is how we grow. This is how we connect. I would have been too embarrassed because I've been like, I'm following this guy that made that dumbass mistake, right? But aren't you glad I made that mistake? so I could learn the lesson to teach you how to not make that mistake, right? So that was the lesson I wanted to share with you today. So in this worksheet, it says failing forward, how to turn mistakes into motivation. And I'd love for you guys if we could do a little work right now. If you printed them out, awesome. If you don't, just grab a piece of paper or a pen, or if you like typing, you could type as well. But let's do this. So the first one is failure is necessary for growth. So why don't we all, and you can put it in the chat, if you want, put it in the chat and you write it down, but recall a specific mistake in your past you're having trouble letting go of or releasing. How do you think that failure has negatively affected your success or growth personally or professionally? So I'd love for you to think about what is your Motor Millions story? What is something that you made a mistake? Or don't even look at it as a mistake. A mistake could be you shared with your husband your goals and dreams and you thought he would be so supportive and he said, really? At this age, you want to try something like that? And you listened. That could be a form of mistake. Or you told your parents or a friend, right? You're at coffee with a dear friend. You told them what you want to do. I want to teach people how to do it. What? That's for teachers. You can't. You're too old for the internet. People aren't going to listen to you. You got to be a teacher. You need a degree. Where's your degree in that? And your mistake was you believed it. Invested way over my head. I was stuck when I was focusing on my mistake. Lost a lot of time in MLM. Does mean naive also counts for failure? Absolutely. So what if you got the sheet in front of you? If you got the sheet in front of you, use it. If not, type it, put it in the chat. But really think through, what's a mistake that you have made or a choice that you've made that stings because you're only focusing on what you lost, not what you gained? There's a lot I could focus on with that Motor Millions story of what I lost. I lost my sanity. I lost a lot of sleep. I stressed. And I was an inch away from losing being in this industry here with you. But what if we could reframe that? What if we could find a way? Listen, I saw somebody wrote down divorce. I get it, Alicia. I went through a divorce. And man, it's brutal when you have kids. My stress was about my children. I thought they would experience the same things that I had gone through. And no one wants to be the person that went through a divorce, right? I'm not an advocate of it, but I did. And I remember I shared this with this group. I remember having massive anxiety about what was going to happen to my kids. But I had to do the same thing in that situation as I did with Motor Millions. I had to find a way to learn from it. I had to find a way to make it better. And one of the greatest things in my life was realizing that I contributed to that divorce at least 50%. And if I brought the same version of me to the next relationship, it would probably end the same way. And my blessing, my gift that I learned from that experience is I need to be a better version of me going into this next relationship. And I worked on me, and I got a love coach, and I got a life coach, and I talked to many people that had great relationships, and I interviewed them. And that was my byproduct of a divorce, is I became a better man. I became a better husband to my wife, Lisa. I became a better father. I think I became a better human. I got a long way to go. I am surely not perfect. I'm far from it. But I became a much better human being because of that. My dad, he went through a divorce when I was 3. It was 100% his fault. He takes blame for it. And then he couldn't get the relationship back. And he pined and lived a miserable life for 30 years over that. And finally, one day, he learned his lesson, and he's been in a great place for years. 30 years. 30 years because no one told him. And when he realized that he could take what had gone wrong and turn it into what could go right, his life flipped. I get to see these things in real time. Let's not waste 30 years focusing on the wrong. So the next part of this is learning from your mistakes. Out of the thing that you said is, what are 3 things you did that you can learn from that experience? And if you haven't written them down, write them down. What are 3 things you can learn from the career, the choice, not taking action on a course, spending too much for the wrong thing, going through a breakup. What are 3 things you can learn from that? If you're really honest with yourself, remember, you might be, please hear me on this. You might have been looking through a lens of what went wrong, what was taken away, and how much that hurt, that it's going to be hard to see the opposite side. I'm telling you, for years before I was in this world nonstop, to try to get my dad to look through a different lens, he had one reason that relationship didn't work and what it did to his life, and there was no shifting that. And it affected all areas. It creeped into all areas of his life. It creeped into his happiness and joy. And when he shifted it, oh my God, he became a new man. So what are 3 things you learned from that mistake, that decision? Yeah, see, Alyssa, I get it. I get it. That's part of the journey. Let's take a couple minutes here and really think through this. When I'm talking here, I'm just trying to prompt something in you, but I really want you to do the work. What did you learn? What could you learn? How could you reframe that? Remember, life is nothing more than the stories we tell ourselves. What if you told the story first and then worked on believing it? Skill sets are transferable. I'm stronger than I am. I needed to support and learn more to keep moving forward. Look at this amazing stuff coming through, guys. Show up, engage, follow up. Be the action and not the pity, and not pity myself. That I'm stronger than I think, and I can get through in life. One of the greatest lessons I learned going through that is I came up with a little mantra during that time. And I used to take a walk, and I used to walk to the gym, and on the way to the gym, I'd say over and over, if I can get through this, I can get through anything. And I told myself that probably hundreds of times. If I can get through this, I can get through anything. To love myself. Trust but verify. Be a better listener. Cheering up, focus, create. Don't give another without giving to yourself first. I love that, Suzanne. My opinion of myself matters the most, that I'm so capable of conquering my fears. Oh my God, this is so good. To be kind to myself more, to get rid of ego and fear. That 450 people on LinkedIn were interested enough to read the promo. So good. Experience and adventure. Speak out loud. After my cancer, I really learned to love myself. Sending you lots of love there. Angelina. Take action, follow through, remember my purpose, clarify, trust the universe, work in my fears and go through it. I love Agmendino had a quote that he said, instead of letting our thoughts control our actions, what if our actions determine what kind of thoughts we had? Even though you're scared, what if you just moved forward? What if you just made the call, forgave, let it go? Let our actions create the mindset, not our mindset create the actions. I love that. Be true to yourself and your passion. Be brave and listen to the voice screaming at me. Everything's going to be okay. This too shall pass. Collapse time. Do more because I'm capable. God, these are so good, guys. So good. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for spending the time with us today. It's easy to go, yeah, I made mistakes. It is what it is. One of those mistakes could be the anchor that's holding you back just off the edge of that next level. The reason I love Inner Circles and I love you guys being here is because sometimes all it takes is one thing we shared today to go, that's it. Or it's cumulative. Like there's another level in you and you don't realize something from the past is making you play a little small. Hesitate just a little bit. Not go for it boldly, kind of go for it timidly, like, well, if this works, maybe I'll go to the another level. No, sometimes it's these little things that are actually the big things. You're welcome. Remind myself it's business, not personal. Learn to process and let it go. God, you guys are so freaking awesome. Thank you for playing full out. And then the last one is, explain the concept of the success tax in your own words. And to me, I had a gentleman, again, I'm just going to talk while you guys are writing, but what does success tax mean to you after we talked about it? I had a gentleman, his name is Richard Rossi. He's about 10 years older than me, wonderful guy, owned a big company, has had lots of success, helping people throughout the world, helps kids. And there was something I was going through in business one day, 10 years ago. I got a letter from a complete stranger, and I thought I was getting sued over something that I wasn't a part of. Just put it that way, 2 decades ago, 15, 18 years ago. And I talked to him, and he said, how long have you been in business? I told him, 15 years. He's like, you've never been sued? I was like, congratulations. Time to pay your success tax. It didn't end up being a lawsuit. But when he said it so flippant, like, congratulations, you're paying your success tax. And I remember a couple of years later, I said to him, what do you mean by that? I think I know. He said, you got to realize everybody wants success, but most people aren't willing to pay the tax it takes to get there. And that tax is failure, people questioning you, overcoming limiting beliefs, not listening to self-doubt, not letting imposter syndrome sink in, not letting the wrong people talk you out of your dreams, knowing that the road of an entrepreneur is lonely, that it goes up and down, that you'll question yourself. But if you pay the tax, and most people won't, you get to have the success on the other side. And I thought that was just something that stuck with me forever. It's a positive tax, Alicia, right? It's like, how do you, I want to pay more success tax. So, Melanie, thank you so much. Appreciate you too. Love you guys. Just think, if we didn't experience the things that you did, you might not be right here, right this minute, with this goal on your heart. The outside world's a little crazy, don't we agree? But if we can control the inside, if we can get strong, if we can use everything in our toolbox as our power, not our weight, then what can't we accomplish? I love these inner circles because I never know where they're going to go. We come up with a topic, I come up with one that's in my heart, and then they go where they're supposed to go. Here's what I'd love for you to do. If you were able to do that exercise now, and so many of you wrote here, thank you. If you didn't do the exercise, when we're done here in a little bit, go download it. Do the work. Watch this again. You can watch it in 1.5 speed when it's done and it's uploaded. But go through this, because you might not have allowed yourself to go deep enough today to really dig out that failure or that mistake or that thing you said no to at a certain point of your life that fundamentally shifted everything and you didn't even know it. And it still could be living there. And sometimes we got to dig in. Rachel, I see you shaking your head. We got to dig in and find it. Go, son of a bitch. It's that thing. It's because I tried this thing in the past, and when it didn't work, my spouse thought I was crazy, and I'm still living that failure there. But who in here, and last thing I'll ask, and then I want to call on some people. Who in here ever wanted something really bad? You didn't get it. You were upset about it. And now you look back and go, thank freaking God that I didn't marry that man or that woman or go on that date or start that business. Who in here has wanted something so bad? And now you look back and are so glad it didn't happen. Suzanne, you are actively waving, so I get it, right? It's like, thank God that didn't work out. What if we could feel that way about everything? What if we could feel that way about everything? All right, who would love to share a mistake that's might be a little personal, but you want to share it with the rest of this team? I shared about Motor Millions. Who would like to share? Raise your hand if you would like to share. Come on, who's going to be brave? How about Shelly? Shelly, CHVOTZKIN. I am not going to try to say it and mess it up. What's up, Shelly? How are you?
I am doing very well.
Well, thank you.
And I wanted to say thank you for sharing that story because, oh, sorry, I don't want to get emotional. But it was really something that I needed to hear. And it really kind of touched me in a very deep way, because prior to finding masterminds, I had actually invested $53,000 in an online course that was supposed to help me set up an educational program. So little background, I'm an OBGYN, and I left traditional medicine because my values I found don't really align with what kind of healthcare has become today. And I feel like I can't really serve my patients and give them the type of care, the type of education that they deserve. So I saw this opportunity, by a doctor for a doctor, allegedly, as this, like, is my dream come true? This is too good to be true. And it was. But having fallen into that kind of scam and had that loss, had me pretty much change my focus and really think about what my purpose was, rethink my belief system, and I literally changed my dot over into something that I really have a passion for. And even though I went through all of that and the loss, and you have your friends and everyone being like, "You're so stupid. How could you fall for that?" It in the end led me to right here, to these resources, to, people like you that have gone through similar losses, and mistakes. And I even remember hearing, Tony telling a story about how, he had a business partner or someone who worked for him took like 200,000 from him. And they're awful stories, but it's in a way kind of comforting and reassuring to see that such successful people have also made the same kind of mistakes along the way, but all of those mistakes have led you on that path to where you're at.
Well, I want to say a couple of things. First off, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing us. Secondly, you're part of a really good family now. Look at the love. Give Shelly some love in the chat. Look what's happening in the chat right there. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that, because it doesn't matter if it's $53,000, $53, or $53 million. It's all relevant when you're in that moment. It didn't feel any different for you having that money taken. You could pull that music down. It didn't feel any different for you losing $53,000 as me having to pay 1.8. It's the same feeling. So I know the emotions and I know the feelings that you went through, and I'm sorry that you have. But you're here. And the only thing we can do is find a way to reframe that, right? Here's the cool part. Mm-hmm. Tell me with that, and I'm sorry that, and in fact, how much more do you feel that when you do what you're now designed to do, that you want to over-deliver to clients so nothing ever happens to your clients like that ever, right? Do you think you will be more empathetic as a teacher because that happened to you?
Absolutely.
I know I am. Like, I don't ever want anybody to feel that way. So you are going to be a better teacher because of that. Maybe with that investment, you would have got enough just to start, and not actually take it all the way through and not learn the real fundamentals, to be a part of a family like this, and you would have started and stopped anyway because you wouldn't have got enough information or enough support or enough family around you, and you would have quit, right? For me, I also learned, I want to tell you something really personal, and I don't want to say this because I don't want to look down on my dad. My dad told me I was crazy for going in this business, okay? But my dad never made more than $30,000 a year his whole life, and I've been supporting him since I was 28. Got a great relationship now. When this happened, he was one of the few people I told, my father, and his first reaction was, I told you, you overstepped your boundaries. You're not meant to, like, he said something that was one of the most hurtful things in my life at that time. In fact, I didn't talk to him much for almost a year after that. So I know when you said your friends said you're crazy, but who are the crazy ones now? I'm doing an event with 2.4 million people in Matthew McConaughey. I get to be with you amazing people and own mastermind.com with Tony Robbins. None of that would have happened if I would have listened to them, if I would have said, my dad's right, I better go back to fixing cars. So don't hate your friends because of it, but they're wrong, Shelly. You went after you. You counted on you. You bet on you. You just bet on the wrong horse. I'm sorry that you picked someone that's not good. In fact, I was going to have my team. I want to know who it is so we can make sure that that person's not doing it to more people, because that hurts this industry when it's only a small percentage, but you don't want shit like that in an industry. That's for another day. But don't let that person rob who you're meant to be. Don't let your friends rob who you're meant to be. I know the money, that's a big chunk of money, and you worked your ass off for that money. I thought through all of that. I want to tell you a little bit more about that Motor Million story, Shelly, and then I want to ask you 3 things you learned. So I'd love for you to tell me what you learned. But the extended version of that is, while Mary was calling everybody, making these payments, I still had to make money to pay those payments, and my life and my house and all those things. I didn't have a job. I had quit. I was all in with Motor Millions. And now I was spending money to launch a new program. You got to understand, different than today, Shelly, and everyone, like I shared, I had to film another infomercial. I had to raise 50 grand for infomercial media. I had to buy product and put it in a warehouse. I had to give $10,000 to a call center as a deposit so they'd take the calls. So I was strapped, spread out. And you know what it did? It made me realize I have no choice but to make it. I don't have an option to fail. And I pushed on Think a Little Different. I pushed so hard on that real estate, and I did personal trainings myself, and I was doing one-on-one coaching, and I was doing everything in my power. And literally within about 13 weeks, I was making enough to pay off all those debts with Think a Little Different. And then all of a sudden, about 6 months in, man, the company took off like a rocket ship. Like a rocket ship. And all of a sudden, I look back, I have goosebumps right now. And it's like, I paid that 1.8 million off in about a year. It took me about a year to pay everybody back. It means I made an extra 1.8 million in my business to pay it back. I was living on nothing, by the way, at that time. I didn't move in my house. I didn't buy a new car. I wasn't going to fancy dinners. Like, I remember making 10 grand a week. I was like, yay! And I'd take 10 grand a week and give it to Mary to pay off debt. Like, oh, it sucked for a while. But what that taught me, the lessons, and I realized what I could do. So I want to ask you, what 3 things, that's a shitty experience, but what 3 things did you learn?
I think the first thing, kind of like what you said, was to trust, and I would say triple verify, because I thought I had verified this person. And even had some colleagues in the course, and turns out I probably should have verified even more, and read all of the fine prints.
Yeah.
I think the second lesson, it was even reinforced even more, was that our setbacks can be our biggest setups, just like what Jamie Kern Lima said.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's just so important to know and understand, because we can get so caught up in the negatives of our own failures and not see that sometimes sometimes if we want something so much, but it's not meant for us, and we try and hang on to it, sometimes ultimately it will be taken away if it's not meant for us.
Yep.
But that way it leads us to find what we're truly passionate about and what we truly want so that we can focus on that. And I think the third thing is just really to be sure that I want my career to be my mission, to be my passion, whether I'm doing, humanitarian work, or whether I'm treating a patient in front of me, or whether I'm trying to pass on knowledge and education through an online course. I want to be full of passion and to really know my purpose. And I think that was the biggest thing I learned, is to just really make sure that my passion and my purpose are aligned.
Everybody, can we give it up for Shelly? You are so brave. You are so brave. Look at the love you're getting, Shelly. And I want to share. I want to share something that I got the chance to talk to you today, but your story is a lot of people's story in their own way, in their own version. And the only thing I could say is I'm so sorry that happened to you, but don't let it keep happening to you, because he won temporarily. He will lose in the life of karma. He will lose in business, and what people believe in afterlife, he will unfortunately lose. You don't have to keep losing. The more you relive that, the more you question yourself, or why didn't I triple verify? That was dumb. It's gone. There's nothing you can do except take it. If there's nothing you can do, then why not make it the wind behind your sail to say, that person is not robbing my future. He's not robbing me of the passion that I want to do, the service I want to give, the heart I want to share, the success I want to experience. He's not robbing me from that. Little glitch, little blip, and you're a part of an amazing family. We love having you here. And the best thing you can do for all of us is be the shining example of what's possible. Shelly, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we're going to be watching you. Everybody, give it up for Shelly. All right, guys. Well, that is an inner circle. I had fun today. Did you guys have a good time today? Those of you who watch the replay, sorry you missed this. Try to look on the calendar of when our live is. Remember a few things. Again, I would love for you to go check out the Selfishly. The podcast is so good with Trent Shelton. Own Your Future podcast. Every Monday we release a brand new interview. Every Thursday I do a behind the scenes. So put that in your calendar. If you listen to podcasts, I think it's going to be one you're going to want to listen to. And if you love it, share it. Also, make sure to be there Monday. Do whatever you can to show up live. I know it's a Monday. It's the only time we could get Tony live and me live and Matthew McConaughey live. It's the only time. It starts at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're registered, awesome. If you're not, go to Livin, Livin, 2023.com. Reserve your spot, show up, and let's play full out. Let's show the world what the mastermind family is all about and how we can play full all about and play full out. It's kind of the same. Would love to have you there. So make sure you register and reserve your spot for that. And if you're loving it and you have any friends, the McConaughey thing, if you got any people in your life that you know need this kind of stuff, but they wouldn't do it, you can bribe them, because everybody will want to see McConaughey. So they might not want to see Tony Robbins. I don't want to jump up and down and walk on fire. Oh, that Dean guy, high-pitched voice, talks too fast. I don't want to see him. But they'll want to see Tony Robbins, see Matthew McConaughey. So if you want to bribe a friend, livin2023.com, send them that link. We'll see you on Monday. We'll see you next month. I appreciate you guys so much. I'll see you on Mondays. Chat soon.